And I freaked out. I thought it was like a home invasion or something. And I go running over, I get up and I go running to where I normally keep the gun, and I didn't have it there. I put it somewhere else. So for a good like 30 seconds, I'm looking around my house, fucking where is it? Boom, boom, boom on the front door. And I'm freaking out. Finally, I get it. I go over to the front door and I go, who is it? And as I look through the peephole, it's covered up. So I couldn't even fucking see who it was. So I'm fucking freaking out. Like orange, I'm preparing to act. And then all of a sudden the thumb comes off and it's like 2 high school girls. And they're like, oh, is Carrie here? And they had the wrong house. So they were fucking kicking on my door. And also too, one of my friends in high school, one of my best friends, pounded on his door. He just opened it because he thought it was his cousin. Didn't even look. 2 guys came in and did a home invasion on him. Shotguns, took him down, tied him up with an extension cord, tied up his little cousin with an extension cord, kicked the guy in the head. They thought he had all this money. He did like flooring, like vinyl flooring, so he's not rolling in the dough at all. And they ended up trying to go over to the stove and heat up spoons on the stove. And they were going to burn him and torture him. And luckily they were idiots and they turned on the oven and not the stove, and they couldn't figure out how to fucking use it. And after a while they got tired and they ended up leaving. But right after that, he came to one of my gun classes after. He was like, fuck, I can never let that happen again. Actually, right after it happened too, he went outside. They left. They took his car keys. They took off his phone and everything. He goes outside, and he's in this nice building. There's a security guard going around. And he's like, I just fucking got robbed. The guys had guns pointed at me. Like, my friends are still tied up. I just got robbed. And the security guard wouldn't even call 911 because he's like, I can't get involved. You got to call 911. So even worse than the police not taking care of us is they can't be held liable for not doing their job. Security officers are pretty dumb, most of us who know those guys and see them at Walmart and shit. But they won't even fucking call the police because they're like, oh, I can't be involved. They're just there as a presence. They're instructed not to get involved. So you're really on your own. So martial arts training. And this to me is, being aware is number one, because if you're aware, you can always avoid this stuff. And I had one of my students, one of my PUA students was talking to me, and he said, I was out at the beach and some guy wanted to fight me, and I was like, no, I didn't want to fight, and he ended up leaving. And he goes, and afterwards I just felt like the biggest pussy because I backed down. And I had to explain to him, I was like, dude, well, what did you want to have happen that night? Did you want to get in a fight, or did you want to not get in a fight and walk away? And he goes, I didn't want to get in a fight, I wanted to walk away. I go, okay, so your decision of the outcome that you wanted is what happened. Why is that a problem? And even me, like I've done a couple cage fights years ago. I've done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've done Kali. I've done a lot of stuff, which I'm going to get into in a second. But even me, if I'm out, I don't want to fucking get in a fight because someone could just pull a knife out, one of his buddies I don't see, one little poke, and it could be over. I could be really fucked up. And you guys have all seen those YouTube videos of people pounding on someone and just stomping them and fucking them up and knocking their teeth out and all this crazy shit. I don't have anything to prove, so I never have a problem walk away from anything. But if I need to defend myself, if someone draws me to that level, yeah, I've done enough training with knives, guns, empty hand, I'll probably be okay. But martial arts training, bad news, guys. We were lied to. Karate Kid, crane kick, none of that shit works. You guys all watch UFC? Yes? Okay. Did you guys ever watch the old UFCs? We were talking about this earlier. Okay, when it was style versus style. And you learned really hard and fast what worked and what didn't. And the Jet Li, Taekwondo, none of that stuff works. My argument is, if that stuff worked, George St. Pierre would be using it. All these guys would be using it. Now, people might say Anderson Silva did the little jump kick and stuff recently. That's just a front kick. That's not, and so did Machida, but that's nothing crazy. So doing stuff like this and waiting for them doesn't work. And also a lot of martial arts are complete bullshit because they'll teach, and I studied it for years too. The guy throws the punch, you block, you step out of the line of attack, trap, strike, grab, throw down. You don't get to do 6 moves, and the guy does 1 move, and he just freezes there and waits for you to do all this stuff. You guys have seen this in any boxing, UFC. It's 1 move for 1 move. It's like checkers or chess. It's back and forth. So if the guy throws the punch, and you trap it, or even parrying it in boxing, you'll very rarely see guys in the UFC be able to just parry and push it down. But Taekwondo, I did Tang Soo Do when I was a kid. I did Aiki Jiu-Jitsu, which is a forerunner to Aikido, and Kinjutsu, which is a forerunner to Kendo. So it's even more like old school and traditional. Man, we used to like block, and it was like 12 moves or something. And like, really, the guy's gonna stand there? It's horrible. So if you are gonna study martial art, look at any of the stuff that works. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is my number one. Learn a striking system, so boxing or kickboxing. And then also, obviously, weapons. I'm a big fan of Filipino martial arts. So Kali, Lacoste, Eskrima, any of those kind of arts. I did Sayat Kali for a while, and I saw one of the guys last year wearing the Sayat Kali shirt up here when you go to the website. That's awesome stuff. And one of the guys I trained for is like, I I think the only American guy who's like actually an instructor in like 4 different Kali systems. And those are pretty fucking nasty things. Those like stick fighting, knife fighting. I've broken my nose multiple times. I've been tased, I've been pepper sprayed. I've been in some crazy shit. But doing the Kali training was like one of the hardest, most difficult things I've ever done. And it's awesome, I love it. So one of my friends just emailed me 4 or 5 days ago, a guy from high school too, and he goes, oh, my fiance, we want to get like a weapon for when she's walking her dog because we're worried about her being able to like defend herself, take care of the dog if there's like a pit bull rolling around. And someone just had to shoot a pit bull the other day?
He didn't, but he was pretty close.
Okay, so someone just had to shoot a dog. And once again, YouTube this shit. You can see the police officers having to fight like a pit bull and stuff. And it's insane how fast they are. And so less lethal force options, I was going to say no one here is a cop, but actually there is someone. But for most of us, we aren't police. We don't have a job where we actually have to apprehend someone. I don't have to take someone into custody. My only job is to defend myself and my loved ones. So I don't need less lethal force options. Because if I have less lethal and someone has lethal, and I'm going to pepper spray someone who has a knife or a gun, that's insane. And also, if I'm justified in using a taser or a stun gun or pepper spray on someone because I'm in fear of my safety, more than likely, I'm justified in using lethal force also. So less lethal force options. I'm sure you guys know a lot about these. Pepper spray. People get it for their girlfriends. They put it in the bottom of the purse. How long is it going to take you to pull it out? And even cops don't even like pepper spray because what happens is they spray it and the wind's going around, everyone gets cross-contaminated. They usually don't practice with that much, so they'll spray it. And have you guys ever done it with deodorant or cologne where you go, and it misses it totally? Okay, so imagine pepper spray. I've been pepper sprayed in our fucking store I worked at. One of our customers was like, let me see this, and accidentally just blasted me right in the face. And I used to train with Kali, and they'd pepper spray us and hit us with sticks and all that too when we trained through it. But this is when I was younger. And he's just sitting there not even paying attention and right in my face. So if you can do that on accident when there's zero stress, when you're like fighting something or a dog's coming at you, the girl's not going to be able to dig in her purse, pull this thing out that she's never practiced with, undo the button, flip to safety, and then spray it and know where that line of attack's going to be. So I'm not a fan of pepper spray. And some people keep it in the car or something, but the heat in Arizona can make it blow up. Then you can't fucking go in your car. And it's so powerful, too, that someone sprayed it in the trash can at our gun range before, which was like a 40,000 square foot warehouse. And then we had to like almost evacuate the whole building. It was so fucking bad. People were coughing and stuff. People say mace, but mace is a chemical. Pepper spray's stronger, and it just comes from peppers, OC, olestrine, capsulate. And it's like 2 million Scoville heat units, which is, I think like a jalapeno is like 100 or something, or 1,000. And then if you guys ever watch Man vs. Food, where he eats like the ghost chili and it's like a million or something. So yeah, pepper spray, they have like 2 million, 5 million, it's insane. And when my brother got hit with it, he said it was through the police academy, he said it was the worst thing he's ever done. And he was Mr. Teen Arizona as a bodybuilder, he's a cop, he's a cage fighter, did way more cage fights than me. And he got hit with it and said it was the worst thing he's ever been through. It wasn't that bad for me. I was able to like totally function through it. Now, taser was fucking horrible for me, and he thought it wasn't that bad. So it also shows you that if someone gets zapped with something, it might not even be that effective. And you're used to seeing something, the guy's gonna freak out. Well, if he's on drugs, if he's very determined, if they're drunk, or if they're just one of the people who doesn't affect them as much, it's worthless. And just counting like your life and safety on some pepper spray that's been sitting in your purse for 5 years, insane. So my friend who's doing these walks, he asked about stun guns. And he's like, well, I don't want to carry like pepper spray, but maybe a stun gun. And I was like, dude, like a pit bull's coming at you and you just want to shock it? And go like bad dog? Because they have like shock collars for dogs. That's all it is. You have a shock collar to teach a dog not to bark. When it barks, it zaps them on the neck. After a few zaps, they'll quit barking. I was like, that's not going to stop them. I used to get stun guns, and to show people how worthless they were when they'd buy them and come to our range, I would just zap myself and hold it in the leg. I even did a field report on this old Style Life forum when I was there. I was like, stun gun DHV, and I would just go zzz, and I'd go, yeah, this wouldn't stop me. But people think because of the movies that you get zapped with a stun gun and you go zzz, and you fall and hit the ground. But if you think about it, it only has these little metal electrodes that are that big. So when you zap it, it only is going to affect that muscle area. So the taser, see how I perfectly segued into that? The taser is stronger. It's on a different frequency where it actually overloads the muscles to where like when I got hit, it felt like the worst muscle cramp I ever had. And I couldn't control any muscles like on my ankle and on my shoulder. And I went on my tiptoes, my calves fucking cramped up. And it felt like I was getting hit with like baseball bats every time it cycled. It was fucking horrible. Took everything I had not to scream like a girl when I got zapped because I was around all my friends. And this is before every police department was carrying them and stuff too. Because the rep came in and he's like, oh yeah, we sell tasers. Like, those are fucking worthless. That's not going to work. And then right then we were setting up our TV with the DVD in it of this guy, Hans Marrero, who I've trained also with him. He was the former chief hand-to-hand instructor for the Marines. And in this video, he's getting ready to get zapped. As they're setting up my zap, we hit play on this, and he gets zapped, and he's like huge and buff, and he goes, oh, and he stop, and they turn it off. And they go, how does this compare to other things you've been hit? And he goes, oh, I got hit with a grenade once. And he turns around, has this giant scar on his back. And they go, what'd you do? He goes, oh, it knocked me unconscious, but I woke up. He goes, it dislocated my knee. I popped my knee back in place, duct taped it, and continued on. But he's like, that's the worst thing I've ever been through. And then like 5 seconds later, they're like, all right, Steve, you ready to get zapped? And I was like, oh, fuck, what did I get myself into? But it's also, the electrodes are spread out, so anything that's in between it gets affected. So it's a larger surface area. So stun guns, bzz, and then also tasers, you can do a dry stun, where if you take the cartridge off, or if you shoot and miss, you can hit them with the front of it, and you do dry stuns with it. But again, it's only hitting that muscle area. So if someone has a knife, and they're in contact range, and the knife can reach my throat, and all I'm gonna do is zap them in the stomach, and they'll go bzz, ow, and they'll bend over. Now it's not making contact anymore. It's having no effect. Ow, now they slit my throat and I'm dead. Not a good defense. And I even zapped my ex, maybe that's why she's my ex, but I zapped her in the butt once with it at work with a stun gun. And she just thought it was a rubber band hitting her. She was like, ow, what was that? But people, because they're trained from the movies and everything, you think a stun gun hits you, bzz, and the guy goes, and falls and hits the ground. Doesn't work like that. Another thing is ASP, which is the collapsible baton. It's a brand of a baton.